Okay, we're gonna give it a go. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the internet and anybody and all who have logged on. Hopefully, there's a few people out there who are watching this. So, welcome to our first annual PE Talks. We are here with a great group of people here in the audience who are also going to be giving the talks. And what the heck are we doing? That's a good question. We're going to figure that out tonight. But to give you an idea of how we got to this point of our students giving these PE talks, I'm just going to give a quick little backstory on how we got to this point. So the people that you see up here who are going to be giving their PE talks are all working in the physical activity area somehow. Most of them will be going on to teaching, and they've come through our program. So again, to tell you how we got to this point of them giving their vision of physical education. We started as a cohort, which seems, somebody said that about a year ago yesterday, they were at orientation coming into our program. We spent all summer working as a cohort and what I call kind of the nuts and bolts of teaching them methods, curriculum, lesson planning, things like that, classroom management. At the end of the summer, hopefully they're leaving the summer with, at a minimum, competence in teaching, especially with this group, they're well beyond that, to go into a classroom. From that point forward, starting in the fall, we have moved on to coming out as a teacher and teaching lessons, and eventually getting to the point now where they are educators, where they're not only teaching, but they are educating each individual student that they come across. Tonight is kind of a culmination of that year of the 26 weeks of student teaching, the late nights, all of the classes, the work they've done. Each one is going to give about a 5-minute talk on somehow their vision of physical education, and what they see or what they appreciate, something to do with that. So how's it going to work? Well, like I said, each one gets about 5 minutes. They're going to come up and give their talk. We are going to be using the hashtag PE Talks. We would love to have anybody out there chime in right now, even if it's just to say, hey, I'm watching from here. We'd love to see where people are watching from. We'd love to know who you are, why you tuned in, and then we'd love to get some feedback. So if something comes up and you have a question, we would love to have you go into Twitter and go to hashtag PE Talks. Throw your question out there, and then in between each talk, I'll come up and answer some questions, read some comments. So be active on PE Talks, and we will address some of those questions and comments. So feel free to jump in there now. We'd love to see it. So how's it going to work? Here's the schedule. If you're on our website, you have to be to find this live feed. This is the schedule, and you can follow that. We are going to stay on time as best as we can. And a lot of that is on me right now, so I'm going to finish up here. So we are ready to go. This is the moment of truth that everybody has been waiting for nervously, including myself. We are excited, and we are going to kick it off with Molly Benderud. Clicker. Do you need that? Timer.
Physical education is portrayed for some students as a time of awkwardness and uncomfortableness, especially pertaining to the locker room. Students who are less physically active in school are more than likely going to be less physically active after school and for their lifetime. From changing in the locker room to having students shower after class, we're putting students in uncomfortable spots. So are we encouraging students to dress for success or failure? How do we encourage students to love physical activity, starting with the locker room and continuing into the classroom to help them love physical activity for their lifetime? Let's start with the first issue, the obesity epidemic. As you know, the obesity epidemic is greatly increasing. These students are very nervous when it comes to the locker room. How do we make these students feel comfortable? We need to build relationships with these students and get to know them individually. Get to know how we can get them to like physical activity. Not only is the obesity or overweight epidemic increasing, but we have at the other end of the spectrum body image issues. So eating disorders. Eating disorders are increasing. We need to reach those students and get to know individually how we can make them the most comfortable in the locker room and carry that self-esteem and self-confidence into the classroom. Let's start with the second type of students that we might come across, LGBT students. These students are very at risk for becoming uncomfortable in the locker room and continuing to not want to participate in the class due to how they feel in the locker room. So, as a result of that, we need to promote a positive climate in the classroom, inclusion and safety for all of those students. Again, we need to get to know these students on an individual basis and help them be successful in the class. Let me tell you about a student of mine. I'm student teaching at the high school level right now, and I got to know a student individually. At first, I knew this student, and she came to class wearing jeans every single day. At first, I just assumed that she was lazy. But then as I got to know that student and build a relationship with her, I realized that it wasn't laziness. After about 2 weeks of developing that relationship with her, I asked her why she wasn't changing. She didn't give me the answer right away. It took weeks to build that relationship to find out her locker spot wasn't in a spot where she was comfortable. So I found her a spot in the corner of a locker room where she would be more comfortable changing. That's what she requested. This took 4 weeks to build that relationship. It doesn't just happen overnight. The next day, that student came to class and she was wearing sweatpants, ready to go, ready to be active in physical education. Not only did she dress, she was more active in physical education. She was more happy to be there. She was more comfortable. She was just like her peers in the locker room changing. She was comfortable. She came ready to go. This is just one small change I made to make that student more comfortable. If I got to know each and every single one of my students on that level, just think what type of education they could have past school. So there are many types of students that we're going to come across, but it's all about building relationships. In physical education, it's not only physical activity that's important, but they need to know, and in class, we need to promote building self-esteem, building self-confidence in all of our students. So again, build relationships with students, get to know them. There are so many psychosocial benefits to physical education, and it's getting to know students on an individual basis to help them be healthier, active citizens once they're outside of school. So help me instill a passion for physical activity in students by helping them dress for success and not failure.
Great way to start it off. Great job, Molly. Looking on Twitter, we have some people checking in. So how about that? We have Dr. Bicey's here. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Silka, you're here. That's awesome. And Bridget, a former cohort member. Thank you for checking in as well. So we've got a great start. Thank you, Molly, for being brave and being the first one. Never an easy thing, but it was an awesome start with some great messages. We're going to bring up June Lee, who is our doctoral student in our kinesiology department and has jumped into this cohort of K through 12 teachers. So it's been great having her, and we are all set. June Lee, you are up.
Okay. Imagine a 10-year-old boy living in an unsafe environment where it's hard to play outside. On top of that, he hates PE classes because the only thing that the teacher makes him do in his PE class is jogging and push-ups. He starts to feel frustrated, feels locked up in his house, and ends up watching TV. mindlessly until his mom shouts at him to do his homework. Children these days play less hours on the playground and have less hours of PE classes that they're not so excited about. How can we help this boy without suggesting him to move to a safe neighborhood or to move to a school that offers interesting PE class? We'd like to suggest exergaming as one of our solutions. Exergaming, also called as active video game, is a type of video game that requires players to be physically active. You can play sports, do yoga, fitness, or even dance, and children love them. Taking advantage of this engaging features of exergaming, schools has been integrating exergaming into PE classes, and during recess, Dr. Zan Gao has been establishing this exergaming lab in several schools across the states, and I want to show you some pictures of children playing exergaming in the lab at their school. All right, so you can see them doing all together, playing exergaming in PE class. So along this trend, there has been research surfacing on the effect of exergaming. And the evidence is pointing out that this exergaming increases children's physical activity and fitness. But this is not all. A study compared a traditional tag game versus Dance Dance Revolution, which is a type of exergaming, on 3rd to 6th grade children, and found that children scored significantly higher on enjoyment toward interactive dance game, which is the Dance Dance Revolution. And another study also reported that exergaming increases children's self-efficacy. Why is it important that we have increased self-efficacy and enjoyment? Because with self-efficacy and enjoyment, we are increasing the chance of children being more engaged into doing exergaming. So exergaming not only makes kids move, but it also yields positive emotion and perception that help them make better decisions on being more physically active. So here's a thank you card that our children wrote, having the Brain Gym, which is an exergaming lab at their school. So I would like to pose a question before ending. Why not use this technology into our PE classes as a supplementary to traditional activities? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Oops. All right. Gosh,
Thank you, June. And for those of you who are more interested in the exergaming, June works with Dr. Zan Gao, who is the director of the Physical Activity Epidemiology Lab at the University of Minnesota. And what are the two schools, June, that they have in Minneapolis? They have exergaming in
Anne Sullivan School and Loring.
Yeah, Anne Sullivan and Loring Community Schools in Minneapolis are currently using the exergaming model, and the U of M is doing research on it. So great job with that. Okay, next up we have Kelsey Josen. Come on up.
oh, thank you.
Welcome to class, everyone. It's so nice to see your bright and shining face out there. Today we're doing the pacer. Would you like to join? That's not supposed to happen. This is how I would greet one of my students every time she would show up to class. That is when she did show up to class. You see, she is part of the 15% of students that either A, do not value physical activity, or B, have personal reasons as to why they do not participate in physical activity. Little by little, I got her to trickle in here and there, a little bit more and a little bit more, and eventually I got her on the line of the pacer. The first time, she walked 2 minutes. The next time, she walked 8 minutes. which is the minimum that we set for our students. But you see, I view this little progress as success, because in my eyes, walking 8 minutes is better than sitting 8 minutes. Walking 8 minutes is better than not even showing up to class for 8 minutes. Teachers would wonder how I got her to come to class. What was I doing differently? How did I even get her to do the pacer? My simple response to them is, I listened, I encouraged, I laughed, but most importantly, I learned. I learned about her interests. I learned about her future goals and aspirations. I knew when she was having a good day, and I knew when she was having a bad day. I just knew. You see, communication nowadays is so impersonal. Relationships are built via social media, and saying hi to someone in a face-to-face interaction is almost exceeding expectations. Some teachers focus so much on assessments, focus so much on implementing the greatest teaching strategies, focus so much on meeting the state standards that they forget about the foundation that makes all of our curriculum thrive, the relationships that you build with your students. So at the end of my middle school teaching placement, I administered a survey to them. One of the questions read, what is one thing that you think all teachers should know about their students? Here's their responses. Their likes and dislikes, their names, that they're just great. You just need to know them more. We all don't like the same things. We need to make learning fun. Their personalities, their way of thinking, their mindset, and how they like to learn. You see, you can't meet the state standards if a student doesn't come to class. They can't pass an assessment if they're not listening to you in the classroom. Coincidentally, in the news there was an article about a teacher in Colorado that wanted to get a better understanding of her students. She wanted to learn how to tailor her curriculum better towards her students. So she gave each student a Post-it note with the prompting phrase, I wish my teacher knew. These were their responses. I wish my teacher knew I don't have pencils at home to do my homework. I wish my teacher knew I don't have a friend to play with me. I wish my teacher knew sometimes my reading log is not signed because my mom is not around a lot. I wish my teacher knew that I want to go to college. You see, this is what our students are saying to us. This is what they look for, what they need to succeed in our classrooms, is the relationships with their teachers. The top two influencers in every student's life are number one, their parents and or guardians, and number two, their teachers and or coaches. So it's up to you whether you want what you want that influence to be, whether it be positive or negative. And it all is built around the relationships that you have with your students. So, welcome to class, everyone. It's so nice to see your bright and shining faces. Today we're doing the pacer. Would you like to join? Better yet, I'll do it with you. Thanks. My pacer didn't work.
Good job with that. I'm sure everybody has some experience with the pacer, and I love the beeps that you're using. Some more tuners. We are working on the lighting. I know it's a little hot right now, where we are trying to make some adjustments. So bear with us on that one. Oh, Silka, good. She put up the link to the physical activity and epidemiology lab. Thank you for doing that. Dr. Bicey, great job. Talking about getting to know students and accommodating them so they can enjoy physical activity. So one of the things we talk about, we understand the barriers to physical activity. We understand that our job as physical educators is to remove those barriers. And one of them is enjoyment. And that's a big part of what we do as educators. So we will move on. And Kelsey's next here. We have Kelsey Coley. And let's give her a big hand.
Great, thank you. I'm going to start off with a story. I just want to apologize in advance for my intense hand movements. But so in West Philadelphia, I was born and raised. Spent most of my time on the playground, chilling, relaxing, playing some b-ball with my friends. But one day, some guys came into the neighborhood, and I just knew they were up to no good. So one day I got into just a little fight, and my mom freaked out. And she said, I'm going to send you to your aunt and uncle in Bel Air. Just kidding. I just would like to thank Will Smith for that opening line. But this resonates with my topic because children in the cities, they are not being as active as they have in the past. As the obesity epidemic continues to rise, children, sedentary activity is continuing to increase. So what can we do as physical educators to promote activity and positive youth development among students in the cities? So we need to establish a connection and collaborate with the support system, the parents, the family members, the friends, and the community around that student. This is really important because not only are we establishing a connection with the student, but we are also bringing their support system in to help the student with their needs and what motivates them to learn. By laying out an action plan, parents and the teachers, we will be able to help the student be successful. While we obviously won't be doing all the work, we'll be laying out the stepping stones to help that student succeed. This will lay into my next point, which is accountability is a must. As already seen in my teaching placements, there are going to be students that are going to look at everything else besides themselves. So how are we going to make students more accountable? We need to create a positive and respectful environment for the students. We have to teach character building skills. That will start at a very young age. We could start in elementary school. We will remain consistent and communicate with those other teachers that they have, that we're trying to promote those character building skills. Accountability is a must. Students who are not accountable, this can carry on into their future. And if they keep putting the blame on others, then it's not going to be very successful for their outcome. So, what can we do outside of school? How can we promote increased physical activity? Studies have shown that positive youth development and increased activity occur with recreational school-based activities. As physical educators, we can advocate. We can find partnerships with local businesses, communities. For example, at Nike, they partner with local schools to bring extra activities for students outside of school, utilizing the gym space, playing games with the students, finding different activities to utilize each role for each student. Next. Oh, sorry. Also, another example, Minnesota Youth Rugby. That is another organization that provides free and activities and clinics for students from early elementary ages to the high school ages. Taking advantage of these opportunities as physical educators and keeping the kids involved while outside of school will lead them outside and help them try not to stay in trouble. So remember, we are all in this together. Utilizing your support systems, helping the students realize who they have supported are going to be beneficial for the student. I feel like I was way under. And I forgot to start my turn.
I thought you were right on time.
Was I? I forgot to start
You're
my
good
turn.
with it. Nice job. Nice job.
I forgot to start the
I
turn.
think that's a good message, though. I think, especially in physical education, I think our partnerships are important. I think we're beyond the point where just physical education in our schools is solving the problem of obesity. And we are sending our students out into the community where they don't have a teacher to tell them what to do every time. So we are preparing them, and I believe community partnerships is a big part of that. So that was a great message there. Some more tweets have come in. Keep them coming. It's awesome to read. I appreciate some of the information in there, and we'll get to some more of those. But right now, I believe we have Stacy Backstrom. Come on up.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start off here with if you want to close your eyes and imagine this, you may do so. So imagine you are walking into a 10th grade classroom. It's now the end of the day and your students have just come from lunch. Not to mention it's Friday and you are approaching a 3-day weekend. What do? You have to capture their attention. For this case, for me and my student teaching experience, for 86 minutes. And if you don't do that, they're running around wild and you can't convey the message that you want to be able to convey to them. But I'll tell you, it's simple. You have to hook them and you have to reel them in. So about 2 weeks ago, I experienced one of the most disappointing situations a person could experience on May 5th, 2015. And I know what you're all thinking, oh my gosh, what could this possibly be? What could be so disappointing? And you're right. Stanley Cup playoffs, second round, the Wild against the Blackhawks, game 3. I mean, a shutout? Really? Anyways, I shared this disappointment with my students, who quickly responded with, oh, Miss B, I thought you were going to tell us something serious, which I followed with, well, this is serious. If we lose our game on Thursday, we're done for the season. And it was at that moment that I knew, unlike the Wild, I had scored my goal. I had caught their attention. I had hooked them so that they were going to be paying attention to what it is that I had to say next. If students are engaged in the content and the material, they're more likely to be paying attention to what it is you have to say. One of the studies that I looked at asked the question, what gets students engaged in class? Both teachers and students responded with saying that content and material that sparked curiosity, had some sort of positive relationship being fostered, as well as being able to express creativity. Those 3 things combined was stated as having students engaged in class. My point here is having the attention of your captive audience is necessary in being able to get your point across. Teachers may have the most important content to teach in the world, but if you don't have the attention of your students or the audience that you're teaching to, no one's going to listen and quite possibly no one's going to care. And unfortunately, that's the reality in some of our schools today. My guess is, had I stood up here and just started off with a bunch of stats and numbers that might not necessarily mean anything to you, but mean something to me, I would have lost your attention. This is where I want things to be different. I want students to be engaged in the topic, and I want students to be able to contribute without fear of being wrong or fear of failure. I can tell students what it is that I know, and I can demonstrate the skills that I possess, but ultimately, I want to know what the students know, and I want to know the skills that they possess. So making the material relevant to what's happening outside of school or using an analogy to relate to has been the best tactic thus far in my experience in capturing the attention of my students. Now, most likely you're still thinking about the Wild analogy that I made at the beginning of my speech, meaning I've caught your attention. It was relevant information happening outside of school, or in this case, outside of what it is we are doing. And I've sparked your curiosity in what it is I was going to say next. I had creativity, or captured creativity, more or less along the lines of making the analogy to the Wild. And I've fostered a positive relationship in taking interest in maybe what your interests are. So it was the simple concept of hook, line, and sinker that did the trick. Without your attention, my speech would have been null, and just like students, they wouldn't have paid attention. So on that note, since the Wild are done, go Ducks.
Thank you, Stacy. I think she brings a good message. I love the name of it too, hook, line, and sinker. It's when I talked earlier about after summer, we really try to focus on our students to educate. And I do believe there's a difference between teaching and educating. And I think Stacy hit it right on the nose that getting a hook with a student, having relationships with the students is very important. It's not something that happens just because you're the teacher. It happens because you show interest. You show that you care for the students. You inquire about them as people, not just as students. And it's great to go watch our students. I'm in schools almost every day. And it's just great to watch our students build those relationships with the students, which is so important. And that's one of the great things that I get to do on a daily basis. So good job with that. I think we are on to our next one as we are adjusting lighting, and hopefully it's getting a little better. So again, we appreciate your communication through Twitter, and keep that up, especially Dr. Bicey. You're all over it. Awesome. Thank you. And we are going to move on to Chris Tangert.
Thank you, Matt. I can use all the good lighting I can get. So when I was in high school about 13 years ago, I had 6 full-time PE teachers. Students had many choices of classes that they could take, and they had plenty of time in which to complete them before graduation. I recently went back to my high school, and I was surprised that they were down to only 3 PE teachers. As I was talking to my former teacher, who had been there for 19 years, he expressed concern for his position at the high school because of new requirements to graduate. I found myself wondering, how can a high school go from 6 PE teachers to only 3 in about 13 years when the obesity epidemic is such a prevalent issue today? As it turns out, my high school isn't the only one cutting back on PE. Since 2001, when the No Child Left Behind Act was passed, 44% of the nation's administrators have cut significant amount of PE and recess from schools to be able to add more reading and math courses. It is also happening right here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Minneapolis just passed a requirement that changed the students must have it changed from 1 semester of both PE and health to 1 full year of each course. Now I would go into more detail about how that makes me feel, but that's a whole nother TED Talk. The nation is starting to feel the effects of these decisions the schools are making. According to the Minnesota Department of Health, overweight children has tripled since 1980. In 2014, 1.9 billion adults were overweight. And of those 1.9 billion, 600 million were obese. Now, these are scary stats because it carries a huge impact on and consequences for this country. The amount of added medical costs for every year stemming from obesity-related problems is $190 billion. Cars burn 938 million more gallons of gasoline than they would if they weighed what they did in 1960. That's an extra cost of $3.4 billion. People estimate the U.S. employers are losing $164 billion a year because of obesity-related issues with their employees. We have a serious problem. With all these crazy stats I just told you, you would think that schools and the government would be emphasizing physical education and health in the schools. But it's quite the opposite. Now, I know you've heard a lot of stats from me tonight, and you're probably thinking, yeah, that's bad, but what can PE do about it? Well, physical education can have a unique opportunity to have a huge impact on the students' health and lives. For many students, PE is the only time in their lives where they'll be exposed to the knowledge and skills to live a healthy lifestyle. Imagine an 8th grade boy. Let's say this boy name is Daniel. Daniel wakes up in the morning late because he was up all night watching movies or television. And so he grabs a Mountain Dew out of the fridge, and that's his breakfast, and he runs off to school. He eats pizza every day for lunch, and when he gets back from school, he grabs a bag of potato chips and plays video games for 2 hours until mom and dad come home with fast food dinner. Now, I know some of you might be saying that's kind of extreme, but it really isn't. That's happening all over the country every day. Physical education has a chance to change boys like Daniel's life. PE can expose students to new activities they never knew they enjoyed, making them active today and giving them the skills to be active in the future. It can also educate them on how to live a healthy lifestyle, teach them how to eat a balanced diet, and lastly, physical education can give them the confidence and self-esteem to aid in all of these endeavors. Overweight children are turning into overweight adults. To change this trend, we must educate the youth. The best opportunity we have to do this is in schools during physical education. Let's not drop the ball on providing our youth with the tools they need to succeed. Let's not drop the ball on PE. I want to leave you tonight with a quote from John Adams, because I feel like it's prevalent to what I've been talking about tonight. There are two educations. One should teach us how to make a living, and the other teaches us how to live. Thanks for listening.
Great message, Chris. Very well done. Again, as I go into these schools, I get to see on a daily basis things being cut. I do believe that we are maybe, I think that's being reversed. There's always budget issues. I believe that districts are beginning to pay a little bit more attention to physical education. I would believe that every principal, every school board, if you ask them about the importance of physical education in our schools, I think they would all agree it's unbelievably important. Unfortunately, I think when it comes to dollars, when it comes to people who aren't as educated about physical education, don't understand exactly what we do as physical educators, I think when it comes down to it, the decision between physical education and maybe an extra reading class or an extra math class, I think the decision sways towards math and reading, regardless of the amount of research showing physical activity actually increases achievement. So it's a great message. It's one of the great things about these cohorts who come through our program is they have a responsibility when they leave here to go out to districts and to be that change that needs to happen, to educate our school boards, to educate our administrators, to educate our other teachers, to educate the parents on what we really do as physical educators. We are not simply physical activity providers. We are educators. And the cohorts who've come before are doing a great job of that. This cohort here, I have no doubt, are going to go out and do that as well. So great message there. Some tweets. I'm going to read a few. You may want to guess who they're from. Bridget, great job, Stacy. Boredom kills inspiration quickly, and our job is to inspire. Awesome. Thank you, Bridget. And say hi to Bolt, your little dog, for me. U of M students are rocking these presentations. Keep up the good work. Nice tweet there. And here you can guess who this is from. how lucky is that professor to have such rock star students for this PE talk? Hashtag rare these days. Any guesses on who that? Oh, there. Yeah, that was from Stacy back there. Thank you for tweeting us here in the audience. So obviously we have a lot of fun with this group. So, okay, we are going to move on. Daniel Pauland is next. Come on up.
Thank you. Growing up, I loved being physically active, and I love being physically active today. And this is a big reason why I want to be a physical education teacher. In elementary school, like most kids, I loved physical education. It was my favorite class. I had a friend named Joe. It was his favorite class too. In middle school, physical education was also my favorite class. But my friend Joe, well, he didn't like it so much anymore. And as I moved on to high school, I was one of those weird kids that loved to sweat in school and stay active. My friend Joe, well, something changed. He didn't love physical education anymore, and he took it online. What happened with Joe? And I've been thinking about this a lot over the past year. And while student teaching at the various levels, I have come to the conclusion that other than building relationships and having knowledge of your content, expectations are the key to success. To help you better understand the various expectations, I decided to put them into a John Wooden style pyramid. Before I start talking about expectations, I would like you to know that students generally like to meet those expectations. And when expectations are low, well, students do not see the value in what they are doing. Having high expectations will increase the value of physical education. So, at the bottom of our pyramid, we need a strong foundation. The foundation is key to success, key to building off and making a strong pyramid or a successful class. Management expectations. So what are these? These are your rules and procedures. These set up your class to help it move smoothly. These are... Sorry, the lighting's bothering me. And so these are questions that you need to ask yourself. Do I have my students in squads? Do I have a daily warm-up routine? What are the rules? What are the consequences for breaking the rules? And these management expectations will allow you to run a smooth classroom, have a positive atmosphere, and ultimately allow more movement time or time on task. After we get the students moving and involved in the activities, we need to have participation expectations. This could also be called performance expectations. Now, we cannot expect all students to perform at the same level, but I believe we can expect all students to participate. So, it is important to communicate these expectations to your students. They need to understand, what does participation look like? And the biggest thing they need to understand is it is okay to fail. Physical education is one class where failure is very visible. And people do not like to fail, but it is a part of the learning process. This needs to be communicated to the students to help them understand that, hey, it's okay to mess up sometimes. And this will ultimately affect their motivation in the classroom. And finally, at the top of our pyramid, we have our learning expectations. These are also called learning objectives. And I don't know how many times I've been asked, Mr. Pauland, what are we doing today? And Kids have the right to know. They should know. And what I started to do was give them my learning objectives, not the sport, not the game that we're playing, but the learning objectives. Because students need to understand that physical education is a fun class. We do get to move, but we're also going to learn. And a fun thing you can do is give them the cognitive or affective learning target of that day. It will really confuse them. As future educators, we need to raise the expectation in physical education to help increase the value of our class. Thank you. I got that on the mic there.
Good message, Daniel, on expectations. And another thing we talk about with our teachers is maintaining that from year to year. It can get tough. You can get bogged down a little bit by the meetings, the things you need to do that are outside of teaching. I had a conversation today with a great teacher talking about that issue, that the greatest thing about our job is teaching, is being with the kids.
It was blinking.
But we know that as a teacher, there are other responsibilities that you have, and those are needed. Those are very important. But maintain your expectations with your students. Enjoy your students. Such a great message.
It's fine.
Okay, we are halfway through. So if you can see what I see right now, there's about half of the students who are sitting back in their chairs with their feet up, and the other half who are still nervous because they have to go. So let's take a little break here.
Oh.
Let's have everybody stand up at home. For you are watching, stand up a little bit, move around. Right, get the blood going again. Awesome. Yeah, good. Okay, people at home, nice job. Hopefully you got that blood going again. All right, we will get back on track here. We are moving on to the second half. We are close to on time, which as Daniel brought up, some you will fail, and we weren't sure if we were going to fail on time-wise, but we're doing okay. I think we're actually ahead of schedule. So awesome job.
I can take longer.
So yeah, so we'll let Alyssa go for 20 minutes.
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, we'll bring up Alyssa Malmer.
So hopefully the videos show up on the screencast. But this is more or less people in a formal exercise facility, just not even almost in the ballpark of how they should be doing things. Just poor form all the way around, passing out because they're not breathing correctly. Incline treadmill falls. This is a guy whose lat pull machine is not bolted to the floor. So obviously these people were failed in their physical education somewhere along the line. And regardless of where that happened, the outcome was the same. They're completely incapable of effectively participating in physical activity and safely without the guidance of a professional. So the ultimate goal of physical education isn't for students to be active for 45 or 55 or 94 minutes for one semester. Your ultimate goal is for them to be active for their lifetime and to be motivated to do so. Now, all of this sounds really good on paper, but how can we actually achieve this in our classrooms? So the first piece of advice that me and my friends were given regarding our presentations tonight was to memorize it. So naturally, I ignored all of that advice, didn't memorize it at all, because I am confident in my ability to convey my knowledge to you guys because I understand what I am talking about. I didn't need to memorize a bunch of facts and look at how to, rhetorically lay out a speech because I have the foundational knowledge. I understand why that foundational knowledge is important. I've had practice in the field, and I know personally what works best for me, and that is not memorizing. So we should be taking the same approach in our physical education, making sure that students understand why they are participating in an activity and giving them tons of opportunities to practice that individually and find out what works best for them. So how do we do this? Research into different methods of physical education, different types of formats, has repeatedly shown that the team sports format that's commonly used in most schools is actually the least effective in promoting long-term physical activity. Basically, putting kids in competitive situations every single day and asking them to memorize and regurgitate a bunch of terms really does nothing. So these students might be able to tell you the boundary lines of a basketball court or tell you the difference between a lob and a drive shot in badminton, but can they tell you how basketball builds their upper body strength or how badminton works on their cardiorespiratory endurance? Better yet, can they tell you why those are important to their long-term health? Can they identify other activities that build those same things, or can they access them outside of the school walls on their own? Do they know who to go to? Do they know where to go to participate in these activities? A lifetime sports model that focuses more on things that you can do, with modern science until you're 120 years old. Things like running, swimming, biking, golf, potentially. Those models are shown to be slightly more effective, but the most effective method by far is called a diversified curriculum, which is what I'm going to focus on. So a diversified physical education curriculum incorporates individual sports, team sports, recreational activities, just time to spend in the weight room alone developing their own program, focusing on independent learning. So that's a diversified curriculum, and that's what we should be moving towards. So what would a student in a diversified curriculum experience? One day they might be doing a high-intensity aerobic activity and tracking their heart rate and talking about the importance of the different training zones. The next day they might be outside on the tennis courts, and even though tennis isn't their favorite thing in the world, they can tell you why that agility is going to help them in basketball or football or soccer, and how it's going to help them build the core strength and balance that they need throughout their life. The next day might find them in a weight room, following a program that they wrote for themselves, looking at their individual needs, their strengths, where they want to improve, and helping them build the confidence to navigate a weight room on their own after high school. Another day might be a field trip to a local canoe launch or a community center or a bike trail, and showing kids activity options that they can pursue individually outside of the school walls. So essentially, diversified physical education answers the question, why are we doing this? As teachers, how many times have we had kids come up and ask, why are we doing this? If your curriculum is strong and you are conveying information to your students properly, you should never be asked that question, because students understand how physical education and every activity they do impacts them mentally, socially, and physiologically. So when students have a rational reason for what they're doing, a practical application, their motivation increases. So developing this knowledge and motivation is what's going to encourage them to be independent in their activities. And it's something that can't be taught within the confines of a field or a court. So encourage your students to think outside of the lines, to be independent and responsible for their own learning, and ensure that they are active long after that final school bell rings during their senior year of high school. Thank you. There's a cord there.
Nice job, Alyssa. Good job winging it. That was impressive.
Thank you.
Very impressive. Twitter, Mark Castillo. Wow. Blast from the past. As some people here know, that I went through this program, a while ago. And Mark was in my cohort with me, and he's checking in. So he says he loved the idea of this event and keep up the great work. So thanks for checking in. It's great to hear you through Twitter. So hope you're enjoying it. Okay, we are moving on to Jacob Sukinen will be up here, and come on up.
All right, before I start talking tonight, I'd like everybody to think back to their experience in physical education. Now, excuse me, now whether that's wants to be your entire experience from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, or maybe just a segment that sticks out to you for some reason. Now, as these thoughts are going through your mind, I don't think it's very presumptuous of me to assume that they all may not be positive. Now, whether that was because you didn't like the activities your teacher picked, or maybe you weren't the most skilled or the most fit individual, or maybe you just didn't like going to the locker room every day, something caused the quality of your experience to decrease. And as I take my first steps into my teaching career, that's something that I'd like to focus on and try to avoid. And the way that I think that can be done is by giving students power over their physical activity. They know better than anybody else how they like to be active. They know if they would rather plan and take time out of their day to incorporate physical activity, or if they would rather integrate it as the day goes along. They know if they would rather do moderate exercise over vigorous exercise. They know if they would rather go play sports or lift weights or go running or go camping or hiking. The point of physical education should not be to teach students the one and only way to be active, be healthy, meet the recommendations for physical education. The point should be to teach them to make it their own. They should be being taught how to being taught as many opportunities and activities as possible so that they can find the ones that they enjoy. That way they can take power over their physical activity. They can make it what they want it to be. They can be that person who wants to go all out in a pickup game because that's what they enjoy. That's how they like being active. Or they can be the person who wants to go kayaking around a lake or rollerblading down the road with their friends. Or they can take a more leisurely approach if they wish, instead of feeling like they have to go to a gym and ride on a stationary bike at this specific heart rate for a minimum of this amount of time. Physical education shouldn't stifle a person's nature when it comes to being active. It should do just the opposite. It should teach them that they should do what they like to do, not what their teacher told them that sports is the only way to do it. They should be able to feel like they can go and do what they want. I feel this way because I was someone who personally had a great physical education experience. I loved going there every day. I loved being there and looked forward to going every day. However, I also feel like I lost something along the way. I was that kid that loved being competitive, loved trying my hardest, and no matter if it was ping pong or hockey. But along the way, I felt like I had to dial that part of me down because that wasn't the way you were supposed to engage in physical activity. That wasn't how you were supposed to be active. Physical education should not tame students. It should teach them that they can make it what they want it to be and that they participate how they find it to be enjoyable. That's why I feel a physical educator's job should be to teach students to make physical education their own and nobody else's. Thank you.
It's a great message. I talked to all the new students who are coming into kinesiology. They typically are coming in sometime early in their junior year, maybe the end of their sophomore year. And I think a message just like what Jacob was talking about is very important. The people who come into kinesiology, generally, they are physically active and they enjoy physical activity. But we are a small percentage of the population. And it's easy to forget that when you grew up with a great physical education experience. You loved every single game that you did on a daily basis. But an important thing is to take yourself out of that frame of mind. And that's something that we work on during the year, is understanding that the experience you had is different than the experience that your students are having. And so it's a great message that you have to educate everybody, whether they love physical activity or they absolutely hate physical activity. Your job as a physical educator is to reach everybody on that spectrum. And that's a challenge. It's not an easy thing to do. That's something they're figuring out, and the people out there who are in the field know that. It's very difficult to differentiate your lessons enough to keep everybody engaged. But it's a challenge that must be met by the students who are leaving here. So great message on that. Okay, we're going to move on with Ann Capping.
All right, so when I first started thinking about what I wanted to do my PE talk on, my first idea was to talk about confidence in female students and specifically in the weight room. Sorry. And so I started thinking about it. I started working with female students in the weight room, and I started to really notice their attitudes and their behaviors. And then I started to realize that those were the same things that I was seeing in my own physical education classrooms. And so I started to really think about how confidence isn't something that's specific to females. It's not specific to a certain setting. It's something that impacts all students, and it can happen in any situation, in any setting. Now, other people have said it tonight too, but the main goal of physical education and my goal as an educator is to teach my students that they should be and help them to develop a lifelong habit of being physically active. And unfortunately, what I've been seeing at my high school is a lot of students who have the belief that if I'm not good at something, what's the point in trying? And I've been seeing that through a lack of motivation, a lack of participation. They're not engaged in the lessons. And I've actually noticed situations, so in a volleyball unit, we had students who would stand there like they had cinder blocks attached to their feet and watch as the ball went right by them and let it hit the ground. In softball, I've had students that try to sneak to the end of the batting order so that they don't have to step up to the plate. And in that same unit, students that are out in the field would physically move out of the way to avoid trying to catch the ball or field it and have to make a play. And so I'm thinking about these students and their lack of motivation, participation, effort, and realizing that they're not going to choose to be physically active outside of school. If they won't do it when I'm there telling them to, they're not going to do it outside of school either. And that's totally contradicting my entire goal. So one way that I've started making changes and noticing that they're doing that they're not confident in their abilities, is just to provide opportunities for them to be successful. So making modifications, making changes to my lessons, giving them time to practice their skills has really gone a long way in improving their confidence. So I noticed that I had with my softball unit, we would have one person from the batting team would be the pitcher. And so the idea is that they're trying to toss a ball that the batter can hit so that the batter actually can be successful. They're not trying to strike them out. And so after seeing that, then I saw students who didn't feel anxious coming up to bat. They weren't trying to go and hide. They were coming up and they were batting and they were feeling comfortable with it. So another way that I've been doing that is through positive feedback. These students if they don't have the experience, they don't know that they're doing something wrong. And a lot of my students don't have experience in the activities that we're playing. And so giving them that feedback really allows them to know that they're doing something wrong and how to fix that. And it also shows them that they are noticed, that their teacher cares about them, wants them to be successful, and provides that self-worth for them. In my experience, and I think that this is something that is portrayed over several years. So it happens in elementary school, it happens in middle school, it happens in high school. And these students feel that they are not being successful in these skills. And so we need to start forming this habit and building that confidence at the elementary level, working all the way up through high school and building that. I've seen how detrimental it can be to students' both physical and mental health. And I think that physical educators really they cannot neglect the fact that confidence is the key in motivation, two, in engagement in their classrooms, and ultimately then in our entire goal of improving the likelihood that students will actually be physically active throughout their entire lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Good job. Dr. Bicey's ringing in again. I appreciate all the tweets from her. It's awesome. Says confidence is key, especially for female students in the weight room. How do we motivate students to be active? I love the answer that she gave herself, modify. Absolutely. Confidence is a huge thing. We know that self-efficacy is a barrier to being physically active. June talked a little bit about self-efficacy. Confidence leads to a decreased self-efficacy, meaning they don't have the confidence to participate in physical activity either during physical education and especially outside of physical education. Instilling confidence in every student on an everyday basis is important. And again, that goes back to that's our challenge as physical educators. It's a great challenge, but again, it's one that we have to meet. We have to meet because we have to reach every student that we have. So I got to say, these are I'm very impressed so far. These are above and beyond my expectations, and remembering that this was a nervous thing for all of us to do, and a new thing for all of us to do. And it's going pretty well, and I'm so excited for you guys and what you have done so far, and for the remaining speakers. So let's move on. It looks like David Frazier is next.
All right, well, it was my very first day, very first class at my new placement. And all I had heard from my fellow teachers was I had 3 boys in my class, and these 3 boys were the worst boys in the school. And it was no joke. I walked in the first day, I could barely make it through the class. It was an absolute nightmare. They were a nuisance. They distracted everybody in the class. I had no clue what I was going to do. So what I decided was I was going to get to know these students and befriend these 3 boys unlike anybody else I ever had. So every day I walked into the classroom, I was overjoyed to see them. I wanted to see how their day was going. And so I just really wanted to get to know them, what they were all about, what their interests were. So as I did that, as I developed a rapport with them, I realized that these 3 boys were homeless. And 2 of the boys were either on the streets every night or they were staying at the 3rd boy's house. And the only way they were able to stay at the 3rd boy's house is if the mother was not there. If the mother was there, then they couldn't stay there. So every single day they come in my class, they would either be sleeping because they haven't slept all night. They'd be throwing down 3 or 4 energy drinks just to stay awake. And if they did that to stay awake, they would be distracting my class. So sometimes it would almost be better if they were sleeping for my class purposes. Now, as I was going along, our policy at the school at the time was if you do not change, you cannot participate, you do not get any points for class that day. They took full advantage of this because they didn't own any other pair of clothes. They wore the same exact clothes at school every single day. And so they knew they were going to fail the class. It didn't matter. So they stood in the corner and, were messing around the entire time and just distracting other people. And even though I developed a rapport with them, they were still pretty distracting. So what I decided to do was kind of go against the rule. And I said, you know what, guys, you guys can participate in what you're wearing. And at first they're kind of like, really? That's not the rule. And it took them a few days to kind of warm up to it. I asked them every single day, invited them to participate with us. Finally, we got to flag football. Football was their favorite sport, and they decided to participate that day. They were the best students I had. That class, they were running around, getting interceptions, throwing touchdowns, super active, encouraging other classmates like I had never seen before. And so then it made me wonder, do we need to change? Is it that important to wear physical activity clothing to class? Or is it just a small barrier that we get so caught up on as teachers, and we're sitting there writing no dress and asking them every day, you bring clothes? They couldn't even afford clothes. So why are we failing them because they couldn't afford clothes? There's other issues to go along with that. Some students aren't comfortable changing in the locker room. Many students can't afford clothing. In every single school district, wherever you're at, some students can't afford clothing. So what are we to do with them? Just fail them? I think regardless of what you're wearing, if you are deciding to wear whatever you wore to school that day, or whether you're changing, it should have no reflection on your grade whatsoever. because that has nothing to do with their motivation. It gives negative connotation to physical education. Every day I see people out in the street walking in jeans, or they're not wearing physical active gear. And I see it every single day. So why are we making our students do it? It gives them a negative connotation to what's going on. And so there's many small barriers in physical education like that we go through every single day as teachers, and we miss the main point, which is the heart of the students, and seeing them find a lifelong activity that they enjoy, that they can be active in, regardless of what they're wearing, regardless of what they're doing. They're finding something, and they're living a healthy lifestyle. And by doing something as minor as making them change every day, yes, we want to see them have good hygiene, and we teach them about that. But at the end of the day, we want to see them be physically active for a lifetime. So, thank you.
Next. Yeah. I think so.
Good message, David. It reminds me a little bit of, I like your point of, not assuming things about our students. I think it's easy sometimes to look at a school in a certain area and say, oh, they're a bunch of rich kids. Or look at a school in a different area and say they're a bunch of poor kids. I think that's a dangerous assumption, which is easily done. I make assumptions every day. And I think it's important to remember, stop, get to know the actual situation, and find a way to get around some of the issues that our students are dealing with. We know that in every single school, like David said, there are students who have issues going on. And I just love the message to say, you know what, I'm not going to let this student fall through the cracks. I'm going to make an effort with this student. I'm going to make an effort with this student. If we can do that with every student, we're doing a pretty good job. So great message with that. Okay, Chad Zawin is up next, so come on up.
I don't need to introduce myself to you guys, but I do feel obligated to those watching online that so we don't get tweets about hey, who's the old guy? But no, believe it or not, I am a student in the initial licensure program here at the U, and a very demanding program, by the way. That that it's a great program, demanding program, and through that you meet a lot of people as you go. And a lot of times I'll hear people, and they're not being mean about it, but people will say, why are you doing this? Or, are you sure this is a profession you want to go into? And I get that more often than not. And there's a quote that helps me out a little bit, and it says, "You're never too old to set another goal or dream a new dream." And throughout the process, when I answer that question, is why do I teach? And because I love it. I love to teach, and I also love to learn. And the key, I don't know, there's not too many professions out there where you can do something new every single day. You have that combination, that balance of teaching and learning all the time. There's always something new, always something that you can take from each and every day. And throughout this program, I've had the opportunity to work with some just outstanding teachers, and I've taken a lot and learned a lot from all of them. And in this process, started out in. So I want to take this time just to say thank you a little bit and show some, extend my appreciation to some of the cooperating teachers in the program. Started out in Minneapolis with Nancy at Loring Community School, and just all around fantastic lady. That I couldn't ask for a better experience just starting out at elementary school, and. She just the biggest thing I can take from that is her ability to, and it was the whole school, just the ability to have just a caring, supporting, and just such a positive environment, not just in the classroom, but just everywhere throughout the community, the families, the kids. It was just really appreciated that environment. So thank you for that. And at the same time, I was bouncing around doing some DAPE with Marcy Riley, also in Minneapolis. And Marcy has just an interesting ability to be able to just be really firm and direct and high expectations, while at the same time just having that supportive, caring ability to be positive. And it's just not too many people can pull that off the way she does. And that was very, very nice to be a part of that and learn from that kind of learning style, whether it's, that management and motivation, just really a great approach. And after that, I was in Forest Lake for junior high, and I can't ask for a better experience than with Angie Ryan in Forest Lake. I think the biggest thing with Angie is her ability to, every day she came in, positive attitude, and just wanted to become a better teacher, passion for it, and that really extended back into the kids. The kids, you could tell they weren't afraid to make mistakes. They were confident. They just wanted to be there and just do their best. So again, just a fantastic environment to be in, part of this whole learning process. And which brings me to my last, where I am now at Roseville High School with Shannon and Allison. Just, again, great environment. And the biggest thing there is every day they're talking about, hey, build that relationship, tell a story, talk to the kids, get to know them. And that's just I appreciate that environment so much, because those are the things that I really truly believe in a lot. So just to wrap it up, this cohort, again, awesome. I learned a lot from everyone here, Sherb, Matt. So thank you guys for everything. So appreciate it. Thank you.
I think that gives you a little bit of insight to how he is a teacher. Just a sincere care for every single person, student or other, that he comes into contact with. One of the great things that I get to do in my job is I get to visit all of these students in their placements. And when I do, I get to I get to put a microphone on them as they're being videotaped. And it's a wireless mic, so I get to hear everything they're saying. Now, some of the comments are interesting as they're talking underneath their breath, but I do get to hear the individual conversations with kids, which a lot of times is where a lot of the teaching and educating is happening. And the way Chad just interacted here, that's how he is with every single student. It's absolutely amazing. So, great appreciation. And I think that brings up another good point is our program can't do what it does without our cooperating teachers and all of the excellent teachers that we work with throughout the metro area. So I'm glad that Chad took this chance to show appreciation for that, because like I said, our program doesn't work without them, and our teachers don't become great educators without them. So awesome message. Catherine Windsor, you are up.
Imagine living in a nation where youth are expected to live at least 5 years less than their parents. Imagine living in a nation of youth plagued by type 2 diabetes, obesity, and physical inactivity. Imagine a nation where young students can identify artificially flavored processed foods before they can identify a vegetable. Got it? It looks a lot like America does today. Nike said it best when they created a new report in the fall of 2012 stating, "We are designed to move." We once lived in a nation where youth were outside until the streetlights came on, mom rang a bell or hollered you in for dinner, and free time physical activity was abundant. Most kids were not told to go outside, they just were. Nowadays, youth are glued to their devices and, to much dismay, less physically active than ever. and we as physical educators see this firsthand. We owe the youth of our nation to do better. Their situation should not determine their health, however it currently is. It's not just about having kids show up, teaching them a skill or a game, moving on, having them leave, and hoping that they use it someday in the future. We need a complete shift in mentality among the youth of this generation. Nike, paired with the American College of Sports Medicine and the International Council of Science and Physical Education, several other expert organizations came together in the fall of 2012 and created a study. Central to their study's findings stated that the first 10 years of a child's life provide a critical window and opportunity to provide that experience and commitment to physical activity for the rest of their lifetime. According to the Youth Media Campaign longitudinal study, free time physical activity and participation declines linearly from ages 6 to 17. As professionals in this field, our vision needs to be clear. Creating a positive experience for children in physical education, as well as creating experiences and opportunities for them to be active outside of the school walls. Physical activity is shown to have kids make healthier choices, have a healthier body in terms of their skeletal, mental health, as well as disease prevention, increase academic achievement, improve self-esteem, as well as be higher earning adults and healthier adults overall. We cannot sit back and wait anymore. Action is needed now to improve the lives of the future of our generation. As physical and health educators, we have the power to ignite a change and positive experiences in physical education. This is where we come in. My philosophy surrounding physical education is simple. 60 minutes a day. We need to encourage before and after school programs such as running clubs, use of a weight room, sports, clubs, and various other activities for students in order to be physically active throughout their daytime. In that, we need to encourage other teachers in the school building to incorporate physical activity into their classrooms as well. Second, we need a variety of activities. We need to provide students with non-traditional experience such as climbing, pickleball, rollerblading, takra, skating, etc., in order to have students find activities in which they love to do. Not all students are going to enjoy running or soccer or football or basketball or the key sports that everyone thinks of when it comes to physical education. From there, we need to also encourage our community to be involved. By providing low-cost activities with the use of transportation and seek community involvement and opportunities for students in the realm of physical activity is a very important key in order to fight the obesity epidemic. Overall, it's very important for us as physical and health educators to see the need for us to be in a school. With us to be there and to teach students that this is an important part of their school day and this is an important part of their curriculum, we can work with the rest of our districts and our administrators to ensure that Phi-Ed stays and that it is an integral part of their growing up and their school life. Thank you.
Okay. Again, another great message. I think it's pretty evident that our kids aren't getting enough physical activity on a daily basis. So keep fighting for that. Talk to anybody you can. Keep advocating for physical education, physical activity, and again, to anyone you can. Dr. Bicey's still sticking with us. I love it. That's awesome. Thank you so much. We are moving on to our last one. And Andrew Gross gets to bring up the tail end here. So let's welcome him up.
All right. So guys, so I got a confession to make. So the morning of graduation, so the day after we actually met here in this room, we were brainstorming about PE talks and whatnot. I was laying in my bed and my eyes are at the ceiling and I was thinking about my balls. So the ones in physical education, like the gym balls, those balls. Now, of course, there's all different kinds of balls, right? There's volleyballs, basketballs, baseballs, tennis balls, golf balls, pickleballs, and gator skin balls. And all these balls come in different shapes and sizes, right? Some are big and puffy. Some are small and dainty. Some are deflated, some are oblong. Sure, we've seen a lot of those. And they all come from different sized companies, right? Some are big, rich, and powerful. Some are small, poor, and struggling. Now, as I was getting ready for my day and graduation, texting my friends and family, my girlfriend, eating breakfast, checking out ESPN, my mind trickled back to my balls. And now I was asking myself, what is going to be my learning objectives for my balls? Now, of course, I want to get my balls to be the best looking balls in school, you know, the healthiest, mightiest, strongest, and the sure fit, right? Now, I could do so by the way I differentiate, the way I organize the balls in the equipment room. I could do so by designing lessons that incorporate cooperative learning activities, or I could do so by providing positive feedback, correcting correct behavior, good behavior. Now, of course, this is all to ensure a positive learning experience that will make them good citizens and responsible, collaborative, problem-solving, critical thinkers. So by now, if you haven't made the connection, the balls of my story are my students. And my students mean everything to me. They really do. The time since I started student teaching in late August until this afternoon and until the beginning of June, I've worked with a lot of different kinds of students. Some young, kind of young and really young. Some mature and mature. Some rich and poor, urban, suburban, quiet, thrilled, and skilled and very unskilled. So what this all comes down to is a question I ask myself a lot. It's, what do I want to do to provide my students a memorable experience in physical activity, physical education? Because God knows, gosh knows, I did not have that when I was a student. What I had was a lot of physical assessments, the sit-up test, the push-up test, the pull-up test, the mile run. And there are traditional sports like basketball, baseball, tennis, football. And there was that awkward unit on swimming where you're going through puberty and you're submerged underwater and you're kind of clothed in the gym uniforms. And there was that other random unit on bocce ball. But there was no yoga to be done, no hiking outdoors, no skate parks to be ventured on. So what this all comes down to is I want to provide my students a memorable experience. Now, how cool would that be if I said, hey, Mr. Monitor, you know that dogward down pose that we did in yoga class? Not only is that a cool pose, but if you do it correctly, I can tell you that it increases your upper body strength, which will increase your bone density, which is important, especially for Mrs. Monitor, because since she's a female and the older she gets, there's more of a likelihood that she'll have a decrease of bone density. Her opportunity to develop osteoporosis will be diminished. But she has to also drink her milk, take her vitamin D. All right. So that's what I want to provide my students. Some information and the knowledge and opportunities to apply and discover something that can propel them to live an active life. Now, of course, I don't need them to be the next LeBron James or Michael Jordan, Derek Jeter, etc., or even the next JV softball player, but just to get them engaged in physical activity to interest them for the future. So when I go back tomorrow teaching, I'm going to teach and get equipment room, get my balls, get my volleyballs and soccer balls and tennis balls. I'm going to pick up and cherish them. Because similar to my students, if I don't give them enough time, attention, and affection that they need and deserve, they're not going to perform well. So as I move forward in my career as a physical educator, I'm going to grasp my balls real tight and lift them up. And I'm going to grasp my students with words of encouragement, wisdom, and respect, and begin to pump them up. Thanks.
Glad that took the turn it did. Great message throughout that. So that was it. That was the last of our talks. I'm just going to say a couple more things, show a quick video before we head out of here. First and foremost, I want to thank some very important people. Number one, Pete McCauley, who nobody can see. He is behind the scenes here, running around crazy, did all the video and technology. Thank you, Pete. To Dr. Austin Calhoun, who helped me with this Kickstart program. If you're in kinesiology, do the Kickstart program. This started off as a crazy idea, like I said, about a year ago. And Austin actually helped forge me forward into figuring out how we're actually going to do this whole thing. So as we're winding down, whew, I think no major issues. So it was great. But most of all, thank you to the people out there, especially Dr. Bicey. Awesome. But most of all, I want to thank the people in this room. What an outstanding group we had this year. From the first day in the summer to, they're not done yet, but to up to this point and beyond. I'm so excited to see where you go. I have such confidence that you're not only going to make a difference in each student's lives, but you're going to make a difference in the district and in the entire education field. So thank you to this group. It was a great year. I know it was demanding, but I just am so proud of what you guys have done. So thank you to you. Thanks to everyone out here. We're going to show a quick video. I think it's about 2 minutes long, and then one last goodbye. So cue the video.
You with the sad eyes, don't be discouraged. Oh, I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it all, and the darkness inside you can make you feel so small. But I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show. True colors, true colors are beautiful like a rainbow. Show me a smile then. Don't be unhappy, can't remember when I last saw you laughing. If this world makes you crazy and you've taken all you can bear, you can call me up, 'cause you know I'll be there. And I'll see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid.
You're taking crazy pills.
True colors, true colors are beautiful like a rainbow. This world makes you crazy and you've taken all you can bear, you can call me up, 'cause you know I'll be there. And I'll see your true colors shining through. See your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show. True colors, true colors are beautiful like a rainbow. So don't be afraid to let them show. True colors, true colors, true colors, true colors are beautiful like a rainbow.
Thank you, everybody out there. If you tuned in, appreciate it. Thank you to everybody here, and have a great night. We are done.